Well, good evening, everyone. This is Tom here, and welcome to Cab Crew Wednesday. How's everybody doing on these hot days of summer? It was 90 here in New Jersey, and humidity's up to 80-some%, so it's probably going to rain soon. So let me give you the hellos for the evening. Dwight Curley's here. Welcome, Dwight. Glad to see you in here. Floyd Robbins. How you doing, Floyd? Welcome. Ray Burleson. How you doing, Ray? How's things down there? And John from Schuylkill Valley. Hey, John. How you doing? And let's see. Anybody else pop in here since I was Ronald. Hey, Ronald. Welcome. Glad to see you in here. Yeah, crazy days of summer, that's for sure. Everybody saying hello to everybody. Yeah, eye clinics, medical stuff is really crazy nowadays. Yeah, I just got a bill from the hospital today in the mail. Wasn't happy to see that one. They say my Medicare has a $1,600 and some dollar deductible, so I have to put up the deductible. Hey, Bob, welcome. That's okay. That's what I do sometimes, Bob. Work on projects while I'm watching a video. I can do it in my train room. I can watch the YouTube in there, and I can hear it better than if it was in my office here. Wow, Floyd. Well, take care of yourself, Floyd. Yeah, so I got on the phone with them and had some choice words to say about that. They, oh, you got to call Medicare. Yeah, right. It's almost impossible to get through to Medicare. Yeah, yeah. Well, here it's crazy. I spend a lot of money every month paying for the Plan B part of my Medicare. I got A and B, and I didn't know that was that kind of deductible. That's a yearly deductible over almost $1,700. That's ridiculous. But it is what it is, I guess. So there, I said, "Where's where's the bill?" And, they had items listed on here, but I said, "How do I know this isn't one?" And then you're going to have another one coming. So I told him, send me the full one. I want to see what's going on because I've been getting mail from them ever since I got out, different doctor offices, different doctors and stuff like that. Yeah, it was like $70 here, $50 there, no big deal. But when I saw this one, I said, holy smokes, that's less than half what I make in a month. So that's crazy. These spam calls. Yeah, I'm going to do that in December, Bob. I gotta wait until I have to wait like the next enrollment period, and that's my birthday, and that's usually when the enrollment periods come out again. So when I got it this time, I was at the end of the enrollment periods for this year. So you can get Plan A and B without, them anytime you retire, no big deal. So hopefully one of the other plans will they I can eliminate the B plan. So I'm going to see. I'll start making phone calls like start in September. See if I, can get things ready. Yeah, see, you know, I started working and paying into this stuff when I was 14 years old. And I worked from 14 until I was 69 and always had a paycheck and always paid into all these, taxes, Social Security, Medicare, and all that baloney. But in the beginning, we didn't know if we were paying into Medicare. They added that on there to show you what you were paying. So I think we were paying it all along and we didn't know. So I'm going to say that we were paying into it. So I've been paying in all this time. And I mean, I made good money my whole career. Once I got in the computer field, salary range was six figure all the time and never had a problem. And I always had good health coverage, $200 deductible for the year, $300 deductible a year, something like that. I pay in all this money and Medicare, $1,700 deductible. That's not cool. So I'm gonna let it set for a couple of days, then I'm gonna try to get a hold of Medicare and find out what the heck's going on, because that's not right. And the expense of they have some of the items here, and they're pretty expensive. Okay, intensive care unit was almost $29,000. A CAT scan, $17,000. An MRI, the MRI was 13, almost 14,000, and an EKG was $349. So what are you gonna do? So I mean, my part of it is minimal compared to what the real cost. But you don't know if they're jacking up the prices just to get the Medicare or the insurance company or whoever you have to pay into it. Then you get stuck with whatever's left over. So, but anyway, that's this that. So I finally got back from Soundtracks, my decoders, and I said, good, now I can finish up my other Subway engine, the other MTH with the Proto Sound 3 decoder in it. And I installed the buddy board, got the front and rear trucks soldered onto the buddy board, the speaker on the buddy board, the two motor wires onto the buddy board. It was so easy, much easier this time than the first time, because I knew what wires went to where. It was a lot easier. So I got them all on. I got the buddy board mounted in there, and then I put it on the track, and it fired right up, no problems. I blew the horn played, so I was good to go. Now I can get all the lights in, and I go, uh-oh, I don't have any red LEDs, because the ditch lights two on the top are white and the two on the bottom are red, in front and the rear. So I said, okay. So I had, I thought I had some left over from the other engine because I had a pack of red LEDs. And I go, oops, don't. So I look at him, hey, JD, welcome. Glad you're here tonight. So I had the package, so I looked it up, and I said, okay, I might as well order more red LEDs. And I ordered them from Motown Trains, and they haven't shipped them yet, but um, uh, you know, what can you do? So I said, you know what? Wait a minute. So I went in my box of LEDs and I looked in there and I didn't find any red, 1 millimeter. I needed real small ones, LEDs. Then there was two little boxes inside the box, and inside the box were small red LEDs. Thanks, Floyd. Keep on top of it. And so they were small. They were small. So I said, great. I got them out, put them on. And inside the MTA engine, there's a frame that goes on the ends of the car. And then the lights slide in on the top lights, the headlight, and the two side sign lights. You just slide the LED in there and it stays in there. And I use this black, it's the window kit that came with the Woodland Scenics windows, so you can blacken out a window. So I use that. It looks like black tape, but it's not. It's really like rubberish, and then you can smash it down and hold down things. And I did that to keep the bleeding of the light into the cab. I did that. Then it came to doing the ditch lights, and doing that same process, but there's no hole for the ditch light because there's this little tube that goes the length of it or the width of it, and then you put a light in the center, and then the light goes down the tube in each way. Well, when I put the black stuff on, it hid the light and it wasn't bleeding into both sides. So I decided to put a light on each side. And then I decided don't use that black stuff. And I used some super glue. And I just put a little dot of super glue on there and put the LED on it. And it's stuck in place. And now you can see the light coming protruding through. And that worked. And it took, then I started super gluing the lights in. Yeah, I had the engine running and I'd hold the light there to see if the light was coming through. And I put the light there. Yeah, you got to get it in the right spot so it comes through the light, the hole. So then I go with this with the super glue and it's empty. So now I'm going to segue into another issue. Okay, I ran out of super glue. And this was 8 o'clock last night. I was doing this. I was watching Dave's Trackside Tuesday show, and I was working on that stuff, and I ran out of super glue. Well, I would have just hopped in the car and run over to Home Depot and get some super glue. I used this Loctite liquid, right? So the only problem is I don't have a car. I dropped my car off last Wednesday because the check engine light came on. So called up the mechanic, and she was going on vacation. She said, call me next week, and that was last Wednesday. And I was able to bring the car down. So I had it for like 4 or 5 days with the check engine light on. But I don't go distance. I just go like to the store or something like that. So I don't like driving the engine around with the car around with the check engine light on. So drop it off last Wednesday. Didn't hear nothing for today, and then I called her the next day, and she says that my water pump was bad, and it's an electronic water pump. It's not a regular mechanical water pump. It's an electronic water pump. She had to order it. So that was Friday. So she got it in, and today is Wednesday. I called her on Monday. She said they were working on it. And then I called her yesterday. And no, I didn't call her yesterday because she said she was going to call me back, and she never did. Then I called today, and then I found out that the electronic water pump that they got, and that came from BMW. It's not like a third party thing. It's a BMW part because I have a BMW, and it failed. So all the work they did to put it in everything, and the thing failed. So they have to get another one from BMW, and hopefully, when I called her today, she was on the phone with BMW trying to get the thing worked out, and hopefully they'll have it there tomorrow, and that one works. So I don't have a car, so I can't get anywhere. Can't go to the store. Can't do this. Can't do that. It's just crazy. Yeah, I drive a Beamer. That's right. And so then today, Barbara came over, and then she took me to Home Depot, and I got some super glue, and then I finished putting the engine together. So, and it works, and it runs, and I set up the CVs and everything like that. So hopefully I get a car before the end of the week, so I can start going and doing some things. I got to go get blood work and stuff like that. I don't like asking people for rides. I just don't like to do that. Even my ex-wife was going to take me down to pick up the car, but I thought it was going to be done on Tuesday, but it wasn't. So, but anyway, you do what you have to do sometimes. So, got that engine working, and then I found out something else. I created another project, which I was working on most of the day today. I use Decoder Pro, which is a JMRI product, on my laptop at my workbench, where I have a piece of test track, and then I got a programming track. And I have an NCE power cab 2-amp system there. And then I have a toggle switch to flip it from DCC to DC. I have a DC power pack there. I can run DC engines if I need to test them before I convert them to DCC, stuff like that. And then I have a toggle switch on my my program track to make that DCC also, so that I have an engine on there programming. I can flip that to DCC, make sure that things I changed work. So I set all the CVs in there. Well, when I create the file in Decoder Pro for the engine, I give it the long road name address for my engines. And most of my engines, 95% of them have a 4-digit road name. I have some engines that have 3-digit road names, a handful of those, and a couple, 1 or 2 engines with 5-digit road numbers. So the 5-digit ones, I cut off a digit to make it with the road number, because in DCC world, 4 digits is the maximum you can have. So for the address. So I then said, okay, I looked at CV1, which is the short address, and a lot of the engines had 3 in there. Well, the other day, I was having a problem. The engine wouldn't respond to the decoder, and I changed it to 3 on the power cap, and it responded. So it reverted back to the 3. So I said, I can't have that. Can't have any engine with 3. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting them all to the last 2 digits of the road number. So if I have a road number of 2726, I'm going to make the long address 2726, but the short address, I'm going to make it 26, a unique number. So that number, then I would put that in CV1. I would say, okay, CV1, a value of 26, hit enter, boom, changed it, go to put it on the DCC track, and it doesn't respond to 2726. It responds to 26. So I go, that's no good. I need it to respond to 2726, not 26. So what happens is when you set CV1 to a value of other than what it is by default, it changes CV29. So CV29 tells you which address you're using, either the short address or the long address. So what I would go into Decoder Pro, bring up the CVs for that engine, set CV3 to the short address that I wanted it, saved it. Then I went down to CV29, and it had a value of, let's just say, 32. So it doesn't change it right on the screen. You have to hit the read button. And I read it from the decoder, and it changed it to a 2. So what I had to do was go in and modify CV29 back to 34. Then I put it on a track, and it responded to 2726. So I have a very large, I have a large spreadsheet, and in that spreadsheet, I have all my engines listed in one column, and then in all the columns that go across the rows are the CV settings that I changed for each engine. Well, hey Todd, welcome. Glad to see you in here tonight. So anyway, they changed it, and I got the spreadsheet. And when I lost my Office 365 products, I got this Office Open software. It's free, and it reads Word documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations and all that kind of stuff. So I installed that on my computer, and when I opened up the spreadsheet that I had all my CV settings, I lost some of the data in there in the conversion. So some of my engines don't have the CV values in them, especially the last couple of new ones that I added recently. So I then decided to take the time to document all these so that I can get the spreadsheet current and this and that. So what I've been doing is taking the engines off of the track, bringing them over to my program track, putting them on there, editing the file if they have one. If they don't have one, I have to create a new one. But editing the file, then I list all the CVs, and then there's a button down at the bottom of the CVs that says read the full sheet. And that reads every CV that's listed in the decoder. And then it puts the values that it reads. So I let it do that, and then I have my spreadsheet, and then I write them down on a piece of paper, and I go over and I compare them, make sure that they're the same values. And I found a couple of things that weren't set right, so I fixed them and stuff like that. So that's what I'm working on. I'm about halfway done with the engines. I got about another 15 more to do. So to get them all documented and then have it saved and stuff like that, so that I know if I have a problem with an engine, I can always go back and look at the spreadsheet to find out what the settings are. It's stuff like CV3 and 4, which is your acceleration and deacceleration rate, and settings for lights and dish lights, and the bell, playing the bell automatically and turning the lights on automatically, playing the horn automatically. All those CV settings are in there in that spreadsheet. And the automation friend of mine, I told him about the spreadsheet. He was interested, so I sent him a copy of mine so he can model his after that, because he has some soundtrack decoders, and he'd like to automate them for his automation and stuff like that. So it's stuff like that. And so now that I have both subway cars engines running, I'm going to run them on the subway system. And I got the sound working with the new sound module and the power module and the sensors. I talked about that last week. I was installing the sensors. I got them all in. I tested them, and they all work. And then they work like I had the background noise playing, and the announcements come in, and they interrupt the background noise, and then the background noise continues after the announcement's over, which is what I wanted, and that works. And the third station, I didn't have enough connectors on the power module that I got, so I had to order a new one, another one, and I did that 3 weeks ago, and they said that they had to wait until the last Friday for them to manufacture them and then ship them out. Well, today I got notification that it was shipped out, coming from Orlando, and it in the post office says it'll be here by Saturday. So next week, maybe once I get the trains running up there, I can start closing up the tunnels again. And because the track is all working, it runs, they run. I just have to work on the sound modules. I was testing the distance on the sound modules, because the two for the arrivals are across from each other. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have them going the maximum distance and interfering with each other and triggering each other, or the other train triggering both of them. So I had there's a button on the sensor. You push the button 3 times, you get it in HO mode, and then there's a pod on there, and you just turn it left or right. All the way to the right is the maximum distance of 150 millimeters, which is 5.5 inches, something like that. And so I turned it down, and then I rolled a car on each track, and the one on the track that I was closest to triggered it, and the one on the other track didn't trigger it. So I had to do that setting on a couple of them. And then the one at the end of the station, which is for both tracks, I had to crank it all the way to the right, so it will go all the way across. So when both trains leave, makes the announcement and goes from there. So when that package comes, I can finish up the sound modules on the one station. Right now, it's hooked up with a 12-volt power supply, and you say, well, why didn't you just use the 12-volt power supply? Well, I could have, but I'd rather have that power module, and then I needed 2 more sensors, because on my first level passenger train, I have to put 2 sensors there, because I want to make sure that the background noise on that is I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it, but here's my passenger train right here. It goes all the way around past that tall building in the back there. I 3D printed these platforms. There was 5 more on each side. That way it covers the full length of the passenger car. So it was a trick getting the engine to stop at the right place. I had to move the reed switch twice. First, I was going to set momentum in the engine, and I changed the CV4 for the deceleration rate to the highest value of 255, and the engine only stopped an engine length. It didn't go further. So I abandoned that. I changed CV4 to 0. So when you hit 0 on the throttle, it stops immediately. And that's the command that's entered in the mini panel. It sends a 0 speed step to the engine, and that stops the engine, so it'll stop. So I had to move the reed switch past the station, because the engine is going to be past the station. But then I forgot. I didn't have the magnet on the engine. It was on the first car. So I had to move the reed switch back a little bit, so the first passenger car hits the reed switch, and then that stops the engine, and it stops right there. As you can see, the last car is a little bit in from the end of the platform. It's hard to tell. I can't make that picture any bigger. But I 3D printed all them. Jim Tedesco helped me make them. He worked on them, and then we just tweaked them a little bit. And then I got people. I glued a bench onto each platform. I have some people sitting, some people standing. I'll do a video from ground view that'll show that. But that's one thing I worked on this past week. And so have that on me, get out of that. So that was that. And then I've been helping James from Dundas Junction. He had a short circuit on his trains, and his EV1 kept on flickering. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a three-way. Yeah, that's a Pico three-way, Todd. And it's a code 100 three-way. They don't make a code 83 three-way. And I don't know if Colonel Jason could make a code 83 three-way with all the tooling that he has, but I put that in long before Jason started making his own turnouts. But it was it's a Pico three-way, code 100, and I'm all code 83. So I had to get those transition joiners that go from 100 to 83, and I put them in there, and it runs through there nice and smooth. So I put that in one. The one siding goes into the industry area in this town, and then the other side goes to that siding there with those cars on it, and then the other straight through. The train goes through that, and behind there's another turnout, and then that crosses over. That's how I go from this layout over this layout here to this layout over here, and then I can go down and then cut out and then go across there and get up to the helix and go up elsewhere if I need to. So all the levels are connected via the helix. I can get to anywhere. And Harley's out here looking at somebody walking by. He's barking if you hear that. So he gets excited when somebody walks by. So yeah, just right now I can push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can push 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can 6 trains by just pushing a button right now. So, and then that they all work. Then the fifth level. Once I get done with the lower levels and the subway system, then I'll go up to the 5th level and start testing the automation. 11 for 11. Can't ask for anything better than that, Floyd. So, yeah, so that's what that is, Todd. It's a Pico three-way with, and then the rest of that track there, you see, you'll see the yellow marks there. That's the clearance markers that's where a train coming this way can't go past that yellow mark until the engine comes in to pick it up. So that way the train coming through here won't hit it. And over here, there's a yellow mark here. So the train don't hit that. So, I 3D printed my clearance markers. I did a video on that a while back. But that's what I do. All my turnouts have clearance markers on them. And so I know, yeah, for clearance, that's correct, Floyd. I was always having a little trouble parking cars in places up in the yard, especially it has that. This yard, I had the problem not knowing where I could leave a car. You know, how far out I can come. And then I found out about this clearance marker. I think I was on an NMRA thing or something like that. They talked about clearance markers, and I couldn't find a clearance marker, so I designed my own and made them. So that's all what that is. So, but I was back to, yeah, I did with yellow paint. That's what I did, Ronald. I painted the mark on the rails yellow, and then the clearance markers are made out of filament, and they have red, white, and yellow. I think there's there's four different colors, but there's 5 levels of it, and then I glue that at the spot where it's clear. The yellow mark means if you're there, it's going to you have a collision. So the clearance marker sticks back from the yellow, and then that's where you park the car, so you don't go any further. So that's how I did that. So I did that for all my turnouts. Somewhere, I don't know. It's hard to see in the light up here. The reason you see the bright light on this image up here is because the overhead lights for the subway system. Hey, Dan, welcome. Subway system is down on the track. It's laying there. That's because the tunnel pieces are all out because I was working on the subway system. That's what's nice about doing the subway system modular like I did. If I have a problem, I can just remove the pieces and work on the section if I need to. So it's just the way it goes there. So let's see. Did I miss anybody coming in? Dan was the last guy in. I said hello to Dan. So what else should I do today? My Viper printer is still down. Haven't did any work on that. MRJ. That is. Okay, so yeah, so that's as you can see on my Helix, I got a bunch of well cars on there. That's how I test them. I put a couple on there, and then I run them around a couple loops. If they go around that circle, then they shouldn't have any problem running on the track up on that 5th level. So the bottom row there, cars I already tested. This one here, I got to run and test them. I just go up a couple levels and a couple of engines up there. They're the ones that I was working on today, pull them down and set all the CV settings and all that sort of thing. So, but back to James's from Dundas Junction story. He was having a short circuit and his EV1 kept tripping. So I said, well, what do you have the dip switches set for? And he said they were set for 2.5 amps. And I says, well, then my next question to him was, what kind of system are you running? And he said an NCE system. And my next question to that was, which NCE system? 2 amp, 5 amp, or 10 amp? And he said he's running a 5 amp system. I said, okay, well, your EB1s need to be set to less than the maximum amperage on your system. So if you have a 5 amp system, the EB1 can be set to 4.5. Thomas, what is the clearance between each level? I believe it's 4 inches, Floyd. I can run a double stack. As you can see, they're double stacked in there. Now, it's pretty funny, Floyd. I had the track nailed down to hold it in place because the gator board, I could just push it through, and it came. If the nail protruded, they were longer spikes. They weren't the short ones, but long spikes. And what was happening is, I found this when I was testing my Mevo camera going up the helix. It was hitting the nails, so I had it one day go through with a nail snip and snip off all the nails that were hanging out. And one day, when I'm comfortable with the helix tracked as it is, I'm going to glue it in place, and then I don't want to worry about the nails coming through. The other problem with the nails, Floyd, is when I was cleaning off the helix, I had to get in there and clean with a vacuum cleaner to dust off the gator board between the tracks. And I used my shop vac with a special attachment on it, small little brush to get in there. When I was doing this back and forth, my knuckles were all getting cut up from the nails from coming down from the level. So I cut them all off, and I don't have them now. There's some wire. Yeah, it was eating me up. Yep. So the wire, running across some of them, I just have some blue painter's tape holding them up. They stay up pretty good. But eventually, I'll come up with a better wiring channel for the wires to go across. Some like to get wires to come out to these Cobalt IP digital machines that you see behind these red boxes here. They're underneath them. The wires had to go underneath it, and I ran them alongside the edges and stuff like that. A lot of wire management on there to deal with. So, but that's to answer your question. Yeah. Thanks, Floyd. Yeah, it's 14 levels. So, because it's level with my first level, where you can see that. That's the first level right there. My mouse there. See the mouse moving there. That's the first level there. And then the second level there, third level there. Subway system is the fourth level is the yard, which is just right here. That's the yard. Then you got the subway system here, which is level 4, and then level 5 is this up here. This is level 5 up here. So yeah, that services all. There's turnouts on the helix that gets you going to each level and stuff like that. So I was telling James, why don't you glue your tracks down, Ronald? Well, I don't glue them down until I'm comfortable with it running. I'm from, I used to do trains when I was a kid. Back then, used to have these real tiny little spikes that you used to put in between the Atlas track where the holes were, and I used to have my mom and dad used to buy us this black rock candy, and it came with a little itty bitty hammer, and you used to be able to crack the candy Hey, Papa John, welcome. And he used to crack the candy, so I used one of them to nail the um, little nails, and that was on a piece of plywood with the green felt. That's all you had back then. Nail it down to get it to hold it in place. So what I do now is I glue the track in place, and then it'll stay there after I glue it in place. But I haven't glued the helix yet because I still have some testing to do on helix. Yeah, the rock candy was great, wasn't it, Papa John's? They don't make it anymore. I wish they did. I got the little hammer. It's in my tool bin in the train room. I have that thing. That hammer is it's over 50 years old. Got to be. So miss those things. So we would um, so back to James's situation. So I told him change the setting on your EV1s to 4.5 amps, which is a little bit less than the 5 amp. So that way, you can use up to 4.5 amps on your system. And if you get a short at 4.5 amps, you won't ruin your system, and it won't ruin your decoders or anything like that. But I have an EV1 for each bus line. So I have an EV1. You see two tracks there in the subway system. That's two separate bus lines and two separate EV1s. So if I get a short on the inside track, the outside track continues to run. The only place that both will get killed is because I have a double crossover on the subway system. That's how I can go from the inside to the outside and the outside to the inside if I ever need to do that. And if it derails there, then both tracks will, because both the crossover goes across each bus line, and the blocks inside that double crossover, if they short out, then it shorts out both of them, and then both tracks are dead. So, so I have 18 bus lines, and I got 18 EV1s. And then, like I said, I had a couple of videos showing how I set up the EV1s. They all have a push button, and that resets the EV1. See what happens on the EV1s if you don't put a push button on it. It'll reset. It'll continue to reset, continue to reset, continue to reset. It'll keep on doing it. If you don't get to clear the fault right away, it's going to try. It's going to try to reach it in the direction. So with the push button method, it shorts out and it stays that way. It doesn't reset until you push the button. So I got these push buttons that have an LED in them. So that way, when the track is shorted, that LED in the button starts flickering. And then, hey, Alfonso, welcome. Not for stopping in. So the EV1, then when you clear the fault, then you can go push the button, and then the track should turn green. Like sometimes you have a derailment at a turnout, and that causes a short. So then you have, then you got a problem, right? So you have to go back and fix the cars, and if one car derailed, you can guarantee there's another one off the track somewhere too. So, uh, uh, so it's so back to James's problem. So he was running his trains, and he has all throw switches on his layout, which are nice. A lot of extra wiring to add a motor onto the turnouts, stuff like that, and more equipment if you don't have a DCC decoder in the turnouts. Like a Cobalt IP has a decoder, a small has a decoder in it, but a Tortoise doesn't. So you need another device. So there's a lot more things involved in that. So a throw switch is nice, but if you're running trains, you got to be on top of that. And what happened was he was doing something else, and he forgot, and his train got to a turnout, wasn't turned the right way, and it derailed. And then that shorted out his EB1, and he couldn't reset his EB1. So I told him, hey, you need to get buttons, set up push buttons so that it'll stay until you clear that. And, when you're only one person and you're running trains, you can't be in 3 places at the same time. It's just not possible. So so he's getting push buttons, and he's going to work on that. And then I also don't make sure you set all the EB1s to 4.5 amps. Don't worry about it, because as you're running your trains, the amperage changes. You fire up the engine, the amperage rate goes up a bit, goes down. Turn on the lights, the amperage rate goes up. You have lighted cars, the amperage rate goes up. A lot of different things that fluctuate the amperage on your track. So you can't just put a meter on the track and find out how much amperage it's using. It's not going to give you a good value because nothing's going on. If you can meter it, like a thing for very nice, Papa John. Like I have the Atlas, the DCC Concepts alpha meters. I have a couple of them, and I also have NCE's DCC meter, which is pretty nice because I can plug that into a computer, and then I can read DCC code coming from that district. So I have 5 districts on my layout, and there's 5 boosters. I have one's a Tam Valley booster that handles all my accessory bus lines. I did run into a little problem with that. I had a couple of turnout motors on DCC accessory bus lines, and that isn't putting out enough voltage to run the DCC motor, so I had to move them to the track bus line. No big deal, just a couple of connectors, boom, 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 and it was changed. So then I suggested to James one other thing. I says, you need to automate some of your turnouts, especially the ones on the main line. You need to automate and put motors on your yard and stuff like that. I have motors on mine because some of the turnouts are hard to reach. So I have a motor there, and I just push a button and it changes it. So, but if you have an easy to get to layout, you can throw, hand throws and do them. You go, especially in the yard and stuff like that. You're working in the yard, you're having an operation, moving things around, stuff like that. But the turnouts that you're using for your main line should be automated or at least have a motor on it. Because if you're over on the other side of the layout, your train's coming around that turnout, if it had a motor on it, you don't have to run across a room to switch it and hope you get there in time. You can address it and change it. Or if you automate it, when the train approaches, it'll switch it to the right orientation that you need. Now, I had that problem on my Helix. You can't even see the turnouts on the Helix because they're in there, but you can't see them. You don't know which orientation they are or this and that, right? So I said, I'll automate them. So I got acid tracks equipment, and there's sensors that you can put into the track or above the track. So I chose the above the track. Then I built a sense. I 3D designed and 3D printed a sensor holder so they can be on above the track. I didn't want to have to drill holes and have the wire dangling down through, and that was going to be too low for getting double stacks up the track. So I made them above the track and a little more reliable above the track. Had them in the track, and sometimes the sensor slips down in the hole, and you got to push it back up through the bottom with the wire, push it back up and get it in between the track again so it reads it. So I went with all above ground sensors, nothing in the track anymore. Only thing in the track is a couple of reed switches and a couple of optical sensors that I have for the automation. That's it. So that's that. So that's what I told him to do. Look into that and going from there. It's a lot easier. So if he was talking to me about mini panel too. And I told him you can use that to change your turnouts if you have motors in there with that have a DCC address. Then you can code the mini panel to change the orientation of the turnout. And in the mini panel, you can do that. You can set up a macro on your NCE system to, like, I have a macro on my NCE system that'll change all the turnouts in my lower yard. It puts them back to normal. So I push a button and they all go back to normal. Or I can run macro 28 or whatever it is, and it'll change them all to normal. I don't have to remember switching them back or anything. They're always normal at all times. Now they might be inverted, which means normal is diversion, opposite is straight through. I have some tracks like that, some turnouts on the Helix where I got a curved turnout, and the diverging track is a continuous track, and straight through is the diverging track, if you will. So that's that, folks. So I've been helping him out with that, and he messaged me on Facebook, and then we talked one day, explained the little detail. So hopefully you'll get it all straightened out. The buttons I got from the push buttons I got from Mouser Electronics, and I forget the part number. I have it documented somewhere. So. Okay, Bob. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to be shutting down this anyway. Heath is live. I don't want to keep anybody from going over to Heath. So I'm going to say I want to thank everybody for stopping in tonight. I appreciate you all. Hope you all have a good rest of your week, and enjoy your weekend coming. And we'll all catch you. I'll catch you later on, and we'll see you all soon. So everybody have a good night. Thanks for stopping in again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Good night.